So today we're going to be photographing at Ricketts Glen State Park in central Pennsylvania. Supposedly it's got some great hiking, some beautiful waterfalls. We'll be shooting there all day. We're going to check it out for you. We're going to tell you everything that you need to know about photography in Ricketts Glen State Park. So if you're ever in the central Pennsylvania area and you want to check it out as a photo destination, watch this video. We're going to tell you all about it.
So we made it here to Ricketts Glen State Park. We're at the top of the hill. We're going to go into the park office, just get some information, and get our day started. So this is the very nice trailhead map that's here, and look at all the waterfalls that are on this trail. I believe there's 21 of them. This is our friend Rich, by the way. Say hello.
Good morning.
Rich is a veteran photographer that we love to shoot with. Oh, and you know this guy. Okay, we're gonna hit the trail, see what we see. First few minutes in here and it's just beautiful. So we haven't even gotten close to any of the waterfalls yet, and this is looking like it's going to be a real nice day. First impressions.
This is really nice.
Yeah.
The lighting is going to be a little difficult so far because you see how the sun is kind of in and out between all the trees and leaves and everything. But I think maybe once we get down into the gorge a little bit, maybe it'll be more in shadow.
Yeah, this is like an enchanted forest field type.
It really is.
Very, very cool. It's very cool in here. It's quiet.
So far, no waterfalls though.
No, we're getting
we knew
there.
that.
Yeah. It's probably about a mile in before you see the first one.
Yep.
But nice trail. Very nice trail. First sign of running water. That's a good thing. This trail is just beautiful. So we're getting close to the first waterfall.
So we found our first waterfall. The vantage point from a bridge over there wasn't great, so I had to kind of climb down a little bit, get alongside the river. And yeah, waterfall number one. We're on our way.
There's definitely some dappled sunlight here, and makes it a little bit hard to get a clean shot of the whole waterfall. So what I'm using is my 70 to 200 to pick out little pieces that are in the shade, like the top left corner up there and the bottom right corner. This way you can take little pieces of the waterfall out. You can take this whole shot, it's not going to come out good. You're going to have a lot of hot spots and it's going to be dark in some spaces, so this is another way to do it.
So far, so good. There's, I don't know, 3, 5, there's like 30 waterfalls here, and we've seen 2 of them so far.
Yeah, it's definitely, if you have any kind of mobility issues, you might want to think twice about coming here. There's definitely some trails that are a little tricky, and there's a lot of vertical climbing, and it's wet this morning, so maybe, you got to be careful. But if you're in good shape, this is an awesome place, even if you just want to come to hike. If you're not a photographer,
most of the people we see around here today are just hiking.
Yeah, it's beautiful here. It really is beautiful. But I don't know if you can tell behind us, there's like dappled sunlight, and it's really presenting a challenge photographically, right?
Yeah, there's not a cloud in the sky right now, and the sun is coming straight down into the gorge, and which is okay. We can shoot around it because there are plenty of shadows. But when you have a big waterfall and half of it's in the sun, half of it's in the shadow, it's challenging.
Yeah. So like I was talking before, when I was actually shooting that one, I had to pick out little pieces of it and not shoot the whole thing. I took a couple of shots of the whole waterfall, and it doesn't look good. It's overexposed in some spots, completely dark, and HDRs with waterfalls sometimes look a little weird.
Yeah.
So it's better to just try to get it in one shot. I mean, you can do it, but so we're gonna continue on.
Yep.
So we're doing good. We're having a good day. We've been in this gorge for about, I don't know if you call it a gorge, whatever it is. But the falls are tremendous in here, and we've been shooting for about 4 hours now, and it's been great. The sunlight's been a little bit tough. A cloudy day would be better, but it's a nice day to hike the trail and everything, but it's definitely a workout. So hopefully we get some good images, and that's always the test. Get back into the computer, and hopefully you get something great. So it's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we split up. Eric is heading down to the lower parking lot, and I am hiking back up to where our truck is at the upper parking lot. So we decided to split up, and I'm taking some pictures of the trails going up back to the parking lot. He's heading down, there's some that way, and hopefully we get to a few shots of each of them, but this is no joke. I'm pretty shot, and I still have more than halfway to go to get back to the parking lot. So it's a great workout, and the waterfalls are just stunning. Beautiful place, really beautiful place. Well, made it back to the parking lot, and I'm exhausted. That was some hike. I ended up not using the M50 at all today because it was such a rigorous hike at fumbling around in and out of my camera bag and changing things up. I just kept my Nikon on the tripod and changed lenses every now and then. But yeah, I was just happy to get out of here before the sun went down. I gotta go find Eric now. He's down at the bottom somewhere.
Okay, so we had really a great experience at Ricketts Glen.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was more strenuous than I thought it was going to be because I guess when they say there's 21 waterfalls, they're all descending. There's 2 runs of waterfalls that kind of come together in a Y, and you're going down one side and up the other. So it's a lot of hiking. So I was shocked about.
Yeah, it's like a 700-foot elevation change within about a mile. So you got to go 700 feet down and then 700 feet right back up again.
Yeah, so if you ever go to this park, we started at the top, but there's a parking lot at the bottom, and the Gorge Trail kind of goes like this. They meet at the bottom, then you can take one trail out to the bottom parking lot. So depending on where you park, you're gonna have to go up and down both, at least once each way, to get to the falls. So just know that going in.
Right, but what did we learn? I mean, definitely plan ahead. You're going to be there all day. I mean, if you want to spend all day shooting, that's what you're going to do. You're going to be there all day long.
Yeah.
We got there a little bit late. We probably didn't hit the trail until 10:30 or so. It's open from sunrise to sunset, so you can really spend all day there. And with the sun conditions, it being just a bright, cloudless, sunny day, the sun was in the middle of the day going right down into the middle of the falls and really just dappling sunlight all over the place. It would have been a little better probably early in the morning, and we were there right just before sunset shooting, and we got some really nice shots there where the sun was at more of an angle and not hitting the falls.
Well, that was the big thing I noticed. My shots from the middle of the day had this dappled sunlight in them, and they're very hard to edit. But then we split up towards the end of the day because we weren't going to be able to see everything together. So the truck was up at the top, and Eric went down with our friend Rich, and there were 3 falls that way, and then I went back up the other side where there was another 10 falls.
Right.
So as I was going up, the sun was starting to set, and everything was in the shade. So I was able to get some nice images going back up the falls because it was just a nice flat, even light, and I actually got some sunlight in the background. So that's a good time to go, early in the morning, late in the afternoon, or on a cloudy day, I would say.
Yeah, and you're going to want to, like I said, definitely plan ahead. We were there on a Monday morning in October, and there was very light crowds, very few people around. But when we were set up on the trail, when we had the tripod set up on the trail, you kind of, in a way, you want to be off to the side. So if you're going to be there on a weekend in the summer, it's going to be busy. There's going to be the trails are going to be really crowded. You're going to want to find places that are a little bit off the trail, where you can climb down on a couple of rocks and get a little bit of a different viewpoint, getting off the trail a little bit. But you got to be careful. But also you want to make sure that you're not wasting time, with your settings and your gear and all that stuff. You want to know everything beforehand.
Right. So let's talk about settings a little bit. So I found myself using 2 lenses on this trip. I used my 16-35 f4 Nikon lens and my Tamron 70-200. Now, some of the reason I was using a telephoto lens was because a lot of times the waterfalls are big and you're kind of not really on top of them.
Right.
And we found that when the sunlight was hitting certain parts of it, it was easier to just zoom in onto a small part of the waterfall and get that with the telephoto lens rather than trying to capture the whole thing. But later in the day when the sun went down, I found myself using the wide angle lens to capture the whole scene.
Right. Yeah, so that's definitely, use your gear based on, what the scene is going to be, what your total composition is going to be. And, know your settings, know your tripod, know how your quick release plate, works, and how to open it and close it really quickly. And then the settings for the camera itself, the actual exposure settings, it's pretty easy once you have it basically set up. You're going to want to shoot typically at a small aperture like f8 or f11, and you're going to want your exposures to be long. For waterfalls, you're going to want to get that nice, even, silky, flowing water. So you're going to need long exposures, which means neutral density filters and slowing down your shutter speed.
That's the main thing. You have to have neutral density filters to do this kind of photography. So make sure for whatever lenses you want to use, you have at least a 3-stop and maybe a 6-stop. I found myself stacking 2 3-stops for most of the day because I didn't have a 6 with me. So I would say for a sunny day, you're going to need at least that. So that would be like 2.9 ND filters, or if you have a variable ND filter. But now you used a variable ND filter, and you had some issues.
Yeah, we both had some. As much as we try to plan ahead, we both had some gear issues, on this trip. I got a brand new, the Canon EF to RF adapter that has the variable neutral density drop-in filter, and I just actually recorded a review on it, and you can see that next week. But there were some issues. There was some figuring out and fumbling around, as I go along.
Right. Yeah, neutral density filters are great if they're, the single stop.
Right.
But if you're using a variable, you have to be careful because a lot of times you can get some wonky results with those. Right. So just know that going in. And it seems like you get what you pay for with neutral density filters. Right. The cheaper ones, especially the variables, are not going to give you the best results. So know that going in. But with that being said, the filters that we did use, we were able to get at sometimes 30-second exposures to really make the water soft, or maybe I dialed down my aperture a little bit if I wanted a 10-second exposure. It also depended where we were. There were a lot of bridges, and those were narrow, and there were people, so I didn't want to sit there for 2 minutes taking a super long exposure. I wanted to get in and get out. You really only need about a second long exposure to soften the water, right?
Yeah, it's really depending on the size of the waterfalls. Basically, the rule of thumb for falling water is, however long it takes, like a drop of water to get from the top of the section to the bottom of the section. Not necessarily the whole falls, but the whole thing. Because if you're not getting water covering the whole expanse of the falls, then you're going to kind of get that erratic, choppy looking water coming down. Give it enough time. So, just count, see how long it takes. If it's a one really long flow, you're going to need maybe 4 or 5 seconds. If it's, cascades coming down, you really only need maybe 1 second for the water to hit each of those parts.
Right, and if you want it to look really soft, you just use a longer exposure, use more neutral density filtering. So that's pretty much it as far as the settings. It's very easy. We shot in manual mode the whole day.
Yep.
Manual, the whole day. You can use aperture priority, but manual is easy because you can watch the meter on your camera and you can just dial in what you want. If you take a shot and you see it's a little overexposed, you can just make adjustments to the shutter speed or to your aperture to, watch the meter go down, darken it up. So it's a really good way to learn how to use your camera in manual mode, I would say. And once you do, you'll want to use it that way for this type of photography, I think.
Yeah, and this is one of those situations where the gear doesn't matter as much. A big expensive DSLR and a big expensive prime 1.4 lens really doesn't make much of a difference in a situation like this because you're shooting on a tripod, you're shooting at f8 or f11 where lenses are basically very comparable. Even the basic lenses are comparable to the more expensive lenses, stop down to f8 or f11. You're not going to see much of a difference between shots taken on basically, an entry-level kit versus a big, pro outfit.
Right. Don't just if you have your Canon M50 with the kit lens, that would be fine.
Yeah.
Or if you have whatever gear you have, if you have any kind of camera where you can shoot in manual mode,
right,
you'll be able to do this. So you don't have to worry about getting expensive stuff like that. It's really more about the focal length, I would say. Like you want to have something that's going to be wide enough, that you can capture the whole scene, because some of the waterfalls are big. Now it depends where you are. If you're shooting in a different part of the country, or maybe the waterfalls aren't as big, every scene's going to but you can do research on that before you go and
right,
kind of get a vibe on how things were going.
Yeah, definitely research before you go. There's a ton of information online, maps, pictures, things like that. Boots, comfortable hiking boots.
Definitely.
Bring food and water in with you, and just be prepared.
Yeah, we were in there all day, and there's no concession. There's nowhere to buy anything. There's no garbage receptacles, so you have whatever to carry in, carry out state park. So you have to, whatever you bring in, you have to take out with you. So, but it's beautiful. It really is beautiful, and I don't know, it's probably the nicest waterfalls I've shot ever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely nicest. Yeah. And it's just a beautiful park, and even if you only get a couple of images out of it, it's a wonderful day out shooting, and you're out in nature and something different. And, just great either way.
Yeah. If you have any questions about this type of photography, leave them in the comments because we'll be happy to help you. I know it sounds, like it could be a little confusing, but once you get the hang of it, just like fireworks photography,
right,
once you have the numbers dialed in and you're used to doing it, it's not as hard as you think. So, don't hesitate to ask questions in the comments.
So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.